Welcome to Backyard Bushcraft. I'm Justin Schmitz with MSCR's Outdoor Programs, and on this next episode, we're going to be splitting firewood with a knife. We're going to be using the battening method, which is using a knife and a club, essentially, to split firewood down into kindling and tinder. If you watched our last video, collecting firewood in wet or winter conditions, you saw the type of firewood we're looking for, and what I've already gone and done is found that firewood and cut it down to size 12 to 18 inches that I'm going to use for splitting. Now, this method is great. It conserves energy and is also safer than chopping wood with an axe. Another great reason to use this method is whether it's winter or wet conditions, if the wood you have is wet, you can find the dry wood that's inside the wood using the simple method. First thing, let's talk about safety. Okay, while doing this method, what you're going to want to do, get yourself a good pair of gloves. It's winter, so I've got some insulated work gloves, but really any kind of work gloves will do. You want to protect your hands while you're doing this. You're going to want a set of glasses. Safety glasses are great, but if you're out camping, you're probably not bringing safety glasses. So even just a set of sunglasses to protect your eyes is always good. And whether you're in your backyard or out in the backcountry, always wear boots or shoes while doing any kind of woodwork just to protect your feet. You just never know when an axe or a knife is going to slide off to the right. Now, I need to collect my materials for splitting my firewood knife, and so there's going to be several pieces that you're going to need. You're going to need a fixed blade knife. You don't want a folding knife like a Leatherman or any type of blade that folds together. It needs to be a full tang knife, okay? Otherwise, if it's a folding knife, it's probably gonna break from all the whacking you're gonna give it. You're gonna need your wood. Process stuff down that's less than 4 inches. You're gonna need a knife. If you have 4-inch wood, you're gonna need at least a 5-inch blade length knife, okay? So you want a knife that's at least 1 inch longer than the diameter of your wood. You're gonna need a saw to saw it down into usable pieces. And you're going to need a club. I got this nice one. It's round. It fits nicely in my hand. It's got a good weight to it to use for clubbing your knife in order to split the wood. So I've got it all collected, and now I can get going splitting wood with a knife. One note, when you do cut down your wood to split, it's always good to find stuff without knots. Now, you're always going to find knots in wood, but what I've done is I've gone through, I've just cut the knots out. Basically, when I was chopping this up, if I found a knot, I cut on one side and I cut on the other, because that knife, while you're chopping the wood, splitting the wood, is only going to get caught in those knots. So just try to use unknotty wood and just cut the knots out when you're sawing. Now, make sure you get all your safety equipment on. Now, what I want to do is I want to take my knife, I want to put it across the wood, okay? I want to make it so my tip sticks out one side here, okay? I want to make it so it's going straight down. I'm on top of a patio right now, a nice hard surface. If you're out in the woods, you could use a rock. You could also use a stump, okay, to do this on. If you do this on the ground, it still works. It's just going to take a lot more thwumps with your club in order to get through versus a hard surface. One thing to note, if you are over a rock or concrete or something, just be really careful. You don't want to go all the way through and dent your knife. Now, this is a really simple process. I get my knife right on top. I get it nice straight up and down. I take my club, I get ready, and I just hit this end, and I hit it a couple times just to get it set. And I kind of have to mess with it a little bit, get it back in place. And there you go. You split that wood with a knife, okay? I didn't have to swing an axe around, just using this knife. Pretty safe method. Now I'm going to keep going down, and what I'm trying to do is get down to that kindling size. Kindling is anywhere from a pen size up to about your finger thick. Okay, so I'm just going to keep cutting this stuff down until it's about, at least my finger thick. And if you were to look at the middle of this, if the outside of this was wet, if you look at the middle is likely going to be bone dry. And that's what you want to work with when you're making a fire. That was a pretty thin piece. Let's see what happens when I do something a little thicker. It says right at the edge, but this is about 3 inches. My knife is 4 inches. I still think I can get through this. No problem. Right, this is a great method. I use this all the time while chopping. I still use an axe while I'm out in the backcountry, but not always. I always use this method for making my kindling and my tinder. Just like that. Next, I'm going to show you how to make a little bit of tinder out of your kindling that you just chopped. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to take that kindling we just made and turn it into some really nice tinder. Now, for making my tinder You know, if I'm gonna be making tinder primarily just from the stuff that I have right here, I'm probably gonna wanna do 2 to 4 pieces of this shaved down into tinder. But that's just in worst case scenarios. Most of the time you're gonna be able to find other tinder such as dry grass, dry leaves, birch bark, and other things that you can supplement. But if you have a really wet day, okay, this might be the best thing you have, which is just shaving down a bunch of your kindling into tinder. And so what you're gonna do is you're just gonna make a bunch of shavings. It's like whittling. Always make sure to do it away from you, okay? And you're just gonna keep shaving down until you get all these little small ones. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shave this whole thing down. Once it starts feeling unsafe, move on to the next one. This stuff will be great later. One note while I'm doing this shaving to make all this tinder is that I'm looking for like little angles. If I can see like a little corner that I've created from a previous shaving, I'll go for that corner and shave that corner off. I'm kind of constantly turning it, finding those little corners that I've left behind. I'll collect all my stuff together into a nice little pile. And that right there is a nice little pile of tinder. And again, if I was gonna be starting this campfire with just this stuff right here that I've collected, okay, I would probably make at least 2 to 3 times more of this and reserve half of it to the side for making that fire. So that's how you make kindling and tinder from firewood you've collected. Check us out for the next video, how to start a small campfire using only this stuff that we've foraged right here and a match or a lighter. I'd like to include a note here on leave no trace principles. When you're out using public land and maybe practicing some of your skills that you've learned from these videos, please make sure you use leave no trace principles. Specifically for this kind of stuff that we're doing here, we're never gonna cut live or green wood, okay? Anything that's living, still growing, it's useless for fire starting anyways. Also, we're just not gonna do that on public land, part of that leave no trace ethic.